Hi, it's Sandy from parkerlings.com. Today I'm bringing you a quick bread recipe, green tomato bread. It's a great recipe that makes use of the unripe tomatoes from your garden. You can make this with fresh green tomatoes or frozen, and that's what we're doing today, making it with frozen green tomatoes. Actually, that we are working to get out of the freezer from a couple of seasons ago. So without further ado, come along while we make green tomato bread. The ingredients for this recipe are 3 eggs, 2 cups of sugar, 3 cups of flour, 1 cup of oil, a teaspoon of vanilla, a teaspoon of salt, cinnamon, and baking soda, and a half teaspoon each of nutmeg, cloves, and baking powder. Finally, you'll need 2 to 3 cups of green tomatoes, which can either have been fresh or frozen. The first step in the process after you've washed your hands is to grease your loaf tins. Now, I am using little loaf tins, but if the recipe needs it, I may end up using a larger loaf pan as well. But I'm starting out just with these small ones. So I'm using butter to grease my pans. I'll come back once my pans are all greased. You can see that's just how I do it. I just wipe the butter. I've put a pat of butter in each one, and I just wipe the butter around all the edges. Once you're happy that all of your pans have been greased, you can set those aside. Now, what's nice about this recipe is that it doesn't actually require a hand mixer. You can just use a spatula. So to start, you're going to beat your eggs slightly. So I'm just going to crack these into the bowl. You can use a whisk. We've got this handy dandy whisk. There we go. Now it's just a matter of putting in all of the rest of the wet ingredients first and then following with the dry. So the oil, 1 cup, and then the sugar, 2 cups, and the vanilla, 1 teaspoon. We'll give that a quick mix up all together. You can use a hand mixer if you wish, but you don't have to. Now I'm going to add the green tomato. Now, the green tomato has been prepared. When we froze it, we first got all the bad bits off of the green tomatoes. We then strained the juice, the liquid, out of the green tomatoes by setting them, blending them up with a hand mixer or stick pureer, and then pouring them into a sieve so that the water could drain out of them for a couple of hours. Once the water had drained, we then put them into 3-cup measurements and froze them. So now again, I will mix this. There we go. And it doesn't matter what kind of green tomatoes you use, any will work. Now we're going to add the dry ingredients. So first of all, my teaspoons of salt, soda, and cinnamon. Then my half teaspoons of cloves, nutmeg, and powder, baking powder. And finally, my 3 cups of flour. And I'm going to just add this in parts, just so that I can make sure that it's mixed well. And this I'm simply going to fold in. No need to beat anymore. Just mix. And there you go. That is the quick bread all mixed up. Now we'll pour this into our loaf tins. Here are my loaf tins back. And you could do this one of several ways. I'm going to use my 1 cup measure and simply pour them in cups. And you want them to be about 2/3 full. Phil and I found this recipe on Pinterest several years ago now, and have always been very impressed with it, and have been so grateful that there's a way to use up the green tomatoes without them going to waste. Makes our short growing season all the more worth it. And if you've looked at Phil's video tours, you know that he is a lover of growing tomatoes. So it looks as if this recipe is only going to make about 6 small loaves. I'm just going to make sure I've wiped everything out real well. So there you go. We will bake the bread at 350 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 180 degrees Celsius. If you're making big loaf tins, you will bake for about an hour. As these were little loaves, I will check them after 30 to 40 minutes. We are checking to see that a toothpick inserted into the center comes out clean and that the edges are starting to pull away from the sides. But too much coming away from the sides and it will become overbaked and a bit tough. So one to monitor very carefully through the baking process. It's been about a half an hour and we're just going to check the breads for whether they're done or not. It doesn't look as if they're finished quite yet. No, there's still a bit of debris on the toothpick. So we'll cook them for another 10 minutes. Let's try this again then. It's been 10 minutes. The smell is divine. Come in. Oh, and those are done. Nothing coming back out on it this time. So we'll take these out of the oven and we'll leave them to cool within the pans for about 5 or 10 minutes. We'll then remove them from the pans to complete their cooling. There are the completed breads. Now comes the job of taking them out of the pan so that they can finish cooling. I'm going to cool them on a wire grate. I'm going to let them finish cooling off because they're not coming easily. But give it time, they will come. There we go. Let me see if I can get this other one out. There we go. Oh, that one wasn't quite ready to come yet. You see that part of it stayed in the pan. That's okay though. Oh, it tastes delicious. And we'll just, and that'll just be one for Phil and I. It's a really beautiful loaf. Oh my goodness gracious. It's as much of a cake as a bread, so whether you put butter on it is completely optional. And here you can see the texture of the bread. This is the piece that came out of the thing. It's very light. It's very moist. Absolutely delicious. So I hope that you enjoyed watching my my green tomato bread recipe. Thank you very much. Happy New Year, and we'll see you again soon. God bless. Bye-bye.